welcome to episode 174 of the Titanforge podcast. I'm Dratnos, joined by Trell.
What up?
What up? And Tettles.
Yo, what's up?
What is up indeed? Well, what is up is the 10.1 patch of World of Warcraft. Exciting times. Not actually all that much to do this week, but you know.
That's what I was about to say. Some patches, whatever we gonna do, Zone, the FOMO Unreal, this patch, not that bad. Just kind of vibe.
Yeah, it is I think it's good. But I will say that even the Dragonflight first 2 weeks, but there I guess there was still like M0s that was kind of something to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But like this week, the Zareth Mortis week, I prefer it to the Korthia week or whatever, the Maw week. Those were pretty nasty weeks in terms of when we were recording the podcast, I was like, oh no, I should be in Korthia right now, right? Like this sucks. Whereas here it doesn't feel that way. But it is kind of, I wonder if maybe Blizzard should be moving towards like just having the patch drop with the raid and the dungeons all at once. Like have it be one day and not have this kind of week of no content.
I mean, it kind of depends on what the content is for the patch itself, right? Because say the patch did drop today, with the raid and stuff inside of it, you'd have to quest through the zone to even be able to unlock the raid, which would that in and of itself would be kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess it has been like in the past sometimes, and that part has sucked, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just like WoW's kind of the only game where like the patch day and the week you want to log in and play the most aren't the same week, right? Like that.
Yeah, that is always really weird to me.
It's a strange dynamic. I'm not saying it's bad. I think this is definitely much better than all the times that they've forced you to play a lot in the patch week. But it is an interesting thing that again, it's definitely better than what it is before. But I wonder if it is something to maybe continue iterating on.
It's got pros and cons, right? Because it kind of spreads out the hype for a lot of people. Like, you get hyped every Tuesday for a little bit, like the first 4 weeks probably, as opposed to just getting super hyped for one Tuesday and then much less hype the following 3 Tuesdays. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess the consolidation of like Heroic and Mythic week into the same thing, we're not sure we actually like that all that much. So maybe it's good to keep it from moving more in that direction. So either way, I think I've been having fun, in the new zone and flying around down there. But also after the first day, pretty much was done with all my stuff on alts. So that's what we're going to talk about this week is what should you be doing this week and what should you be doing for the next couple of weeks. And kind of gearing you up with the information about the new systems and the new everything that will help you make good decisions. And that's because we're not going to be making a podcast for the next probably 2 weeks, would be my guess, but that's somewhat fluid. It could get changed in either direction reasonably easily.
If we're back, okay, there's no way we're back next week. If we're back the week after,
Xavius.
Could be a 5-day tier.
Would you even be back in time?
Although the podcast would be on day 3 of the tier. I don't know about that one.
Could be. It's possible. Anyways, probably almost certainly not next week and probably not the week after, but we're not sure. Because of course, all of us have a bunch of raiding and dungeons to be doing. And also there's Race to World First going on, which I'm still casting this time. Tettles, you're not casting this time as well, which I'm sure we'll have some questions about. So do you want to maybe field that right on the bat here?
I guess the only thing I really say is I just couldn't get a deal done in time. Like realistically, it just comes down to like negotiations. Hopefully I cast the next race. That would be ideal. I like casting the race. It would be fun. Yeah, there's not really drama. There's nothing like that. It's just business, right? Couldn't get a deal negotiated in time.
Yeah, and we've got some other projects that we'll get to cast and stuff together in the future as well. So
still
looking forward to those.
Still doing Race World First recap too.
Yes, the Race World First recap on the GG WoW channel is still planned to be happening, and in fact, will be nice to have one person recording it from their usual setup as well, so it'll be a lot.
That'll be significantly better. Less
Yeah.
steps for sure.
last couple races when we've been trying to run that thing, it's involved like just some unbelievable jank of setting up recording every day that like
Oh, yeah,
and
the
then just
hotel
one day
room,
the
yeah.
webcam that was usually there breaks or isn't there or something, and you're just like, oh no. So
Tuttle's not being a caster for this race is kind of like when a streamer that usually only plays one class suddenly plays a different class for one stream, and everyone's like, "Did you leave Warrior? Are you a Paladin main now?
I
Is Tuttle's a normie now?"
was taking my Warlock through the Zerolek Caverns today, and I got asked if I was rerolling the Warlock. I was like,
Exactly.
no, it's my third alt.
yeah, you're not rerolling into that thing unless it gets a class trinket out of its vault in the first week, in which case that's happening.
I actually want to sell a Warlock, 423 item level with a class trinket.
Okay. All right,
Damn,
bold.
your Warlock's jacked.
Bidding highest offers, yeah.
Yeah, just throw out a little bit of RMT on the pot. Bold strat. I like it though. Um, okay, so that's the plan for the next few weeks. We have a couple of kind of other small topics to cover before we get into the big 10.1 stuff. So again, feel free to use the chapters down below to move ahead to when we actually start talking more about the 10.1 strat stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, just smash that 30-second forward button a bunch of times. But we have Evoker Legendary data mining to cover, which so there's these strings, this evidence that was kind of spurred from some stuff that Ian has said in some interviews, such as Evokers will probably be interested in what Commander Sarkareth may have for them when we get there. And then there are one or two things regarding professions that haven't been seen on the PTR that should be a surprise come May. So these are things that Blizzard has said. Then there's these encrypted strings that have the name of Drakthir Legendary and then other stuff in them. And there's encrypted recipes, but some of them weren't properly encrypted or weren't all encrypted. So there's one that requires like 240 of some reagent, 20 of another, and 25 Awakened Order. And so the speculation is like maybe this 240 thing is like fragments that drop from bosses or something, or like once you get the quest or something to do it. And there's some encrypted Empower stage data, which is like a Fire Breath, or all the Empower spells have this data for them. There's no associated spell yet, but so the speculation is that maybe there is a Evoker Legendary that grants or upgrades an Empower spell, or there was also this data mine or this leaked tooltip that got linked around, which I think is a little bit more suspicious. It doesn't have anything to do with that, but may also be what the Legendary is about, is some kind of like stat proc that it gives to your group. So either of those things are possible. It may have something to do with that gauntlet, that Oathbinder gauntlet that you smash in the quest that we did already at the start of the Zerolite Caverns. So that is all the current speculation.
It's funny, Squishy before like this post was even made, like he like told me, and he was like telling me some of the stuff, and I was like, so what is your confidence that there is like a Evoker Legendary off the last boss? He goes, I'm 99% confident there is a Legendary off the last boss for Evoker. I am 60% confident it's going to be a weapon. And I was like, holy shit. So the fact that they have something off the last boss is actually so cool, because I feel like this wasn't known for a while, right? Like it was encrypted pretty well.
Yeah, the Blizzard threw the misdirect with that Evoker third spec thing,
Is that even a misdirect? Is that I think that's also
may also
just true.
Maybe coming further down the line, yeah. So either way, it's cool, and I hope that it is interesting and not like broken and throws a huge wrench into things, but is good and maybe something one of those kind of old style legendaries that you grind for with many weeks of raid clear, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
that's what the 240 number makes me think. So
you know what it's likely going to be? It's likely going to be Evokers are good without it, and then they're the best DPS in the game with it. May
well be the case. Yeah, Evokers do seem quite good right now. So and probably one of the specs that Blizzard is least likely to nerf if it is good as well is old Dev Evoker right now. So could be a good thing to be playing. Yeah. Okay. This week has also brought the 25% player health and monster damage increase, which has affected both Mythic Plus and Raid. Have you guys been feeling this in your keys and/or Raid encounters?
Dude,
All-
I didn't do shit this week.
Okay.
Yeah, all I've done is raid. I couldn't really tell in raid.
We took
Okay.
this week off. Raiding.
Fair enough.
What
Yeah.
did you guys see in your raid yesterday? I saw you guys were doing stuff.
Yeah, we well, one of our tanks didn't wake up for the first 2 hours, so we were kind of struggling for a little bit, and then it wasn't me, it's the other tank. And then we were like wiping a Razagath. I don't think it was because of the change here, but it may have helped. It may have contributed.
You guys start raiding at like 10 Eastern, right?
Yeah. Our guild
Yeah,
is
we
a
went to
home
Raz
for
for like an hour or two. But
for people
I
of
don't- it was
any
just
sleep
like
schedule, yeah.
uncomfortable changes though, causing the wipes. Nothing.
Yeah.
No shield changes really that were noticeable in the end.
I mean, I saw like Meldrissa was Meldrissa, Razagath. What else got a shield change? Something else got a shield change, didn't they?
Yeah, so like they inadvertently accidentally buffed monster shields when they buffed monster damage and player health, and they reverted that on Razagath, but that was an inadvertent change.
They also inadvertently buffed Touch of Death, which they're sure to nerf soon.
Surely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yay.
Well, they buffed it by 25%, so
It's also Raging
Sure.
Quaking Week. So this is our last ever Quaking Week. A fond farewell, hopefully, to the Affix. And also it's new Raging as well, which I did predict this was the most likely thing to happen this week, but it's still weird. Still weird to have the Affix, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
why is Quaking here?
Because it's still a season 1 week, so they're just still using the season 1 week that it would have been. But then the Raging got changed, so it's new Raging.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess if they would have removed Quaking, they would have had to also remove Thundering, and then keys would have been like really, really weird and different. But
Yeah.
I've heard lots of problems with the new Raging going on in these dungeons.
Yes.
I like what?
So
what's up?
imps and Court of Stars, they all get Raging. You can't AoE stop them anymore. Your options are Solar Beam or Evoker, because I think Solar Beam works through it.
Yeah, because what are you gonna do? 8 single interrupts on a pack of imps with 5 people in the group?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the first good example of how that affix is just not great. I think that the like piercing shard guys in Azure Vault is pretty bad.
Yeah.
The earth shapers or whatever they're called in Ruby, pretty bad, that do the slam at the beginning.
This is why I was
Stuff
a
like
bit
that.
concerned whenever I saw Raging get changed to this. Like I can also anticipate, Thunder Callers in Halls of Valor. If you have a pull with like a Thunder Caller plus a Mystic and you only have one Soothe for whatever reason, what are we supposed to soothe here? Like, I guess it's supposed to be the Mystic, but
Yeah. I hope that they will just whitelist mobs from getting Raging, or blacklist mobs from getting Raging as needed.
interesting. Okay.
Because like the Thundercaller, you can kick through Raging. You can kick
Yes.
Thundercallers and Mystics through Raging. So that's fine, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Those guys, the problem is when you have like 8 mobs that need to get kicked, or when you have like the slammers at the start of Ruby Life Pools that need to get stopped, right? They need to get stopped with a stun or something.
Right. When
Or they
stops are
have
the
a
only
CC
option.
immunity if they also have a shield.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of the same as Raging, right? Like that.
Yeah.
They basically that was the same problem those things had. But yeah. So I hope
I mean,
that
there
they'll
is-
look
there
and
is
basically
some-
like if Court of Stars came back, they would whitelist those imps to not get Raging or whatever, and I think that would do a lot of work here.
Mhm.
There's definitely like some counterplay, because let's take the I don't know about the imps actually. Those have no counterplay really, except one class I can do them or whatever. But like the Earthshapers in Ruby, you could mark one with Skull and just make sure that the group burns it to make sure that only one rages at a time.
Yeah.
And then like maybe
Yeah.
slow damage on the last 2, because there's usually like 3 in a pull.
I mean,
but
that's so
It's still
stupid,
kind of a
though.
weird workaround. That's the only thing you can really do. There's got to be more options.
Yeah,
than
I mean,
that.
you could personal let it go off.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays in the new dungeons. I don't care too much if it's broken in some of these dungeons in season 1 this week. I much more care like, is this going to be okay in the new dungeons? And I
Yeah.
suspect it's going to involve making sure that like the 5 worst things that can happen get changed so they can't happen. And if they do that,
I can already
quickly,
think of
it'll be
one bad
fine.
one with Raging and
Where?
Uldaman, the dudes that do the Hail of Stone AoE.
Oh, yeah.
That's gonna kill people.
That
Yeah.
that thing's gonna kill people without Raging, man. People are just not gonna stop that, and they're gonna die.
Yeah.
That's I think an early candidate for something that's damage is gonna get toned downwards is Hail of Stone. But yeah, we will see. Okay, let's move on to talking about 10.1. Let's talk about the 10.1 stuff to do for anybody that is. I feel like there's a lot of people. We're kind of used to there being these big to-do lists of things to do at the start of patches, and
Yes.
there's really not much here in 10.1.
So for record, I think that I'm doing 3 characters of splits, and the amount that I have to play during 10.1 right now, I want to say it doesn't exceed 4 hours to get all 3 of my characters prepared for next week.
Yeah, it is very like you can play more and get some more stuff, but
Yeah.
almost basically none of that will be relevant for a mythic geared character this patch, and none of it will be relevant for more than a few days for any character that will be rating normal or doing like 10 keys next next patch as well. So,
Okay, so let's talk about what you should do. So I guess questing through the zone is the first thing, right? Doing the campaign in the Zerolite Caverns tends to be the most lucrative thing. What part of the campaign is important though? Because there's only specific parts of it that are actually impactful. Yeah.
So on a main character, I would just complete the quest until you can't anymore. So I'd finish all the first 4 chapters because you probably want the new mount from chapter 5. And sometimes they put these quests in the campaign or at the end of the campaign as well, where it's like defeat Scale Commander Sarkareth and earn this cool thing, right?
True, yeah.
So I would consider on a main or on any high value alt. I would have completing the whole campaign be on my to-do list for this week. Not because it's super important, but just because it's a use of time that seems not bad and that might pay off. I would definitely do it at least on one character, so if you care about the Winding Slither Drake mount, because that's gated behind like chapter 5 of the campaign or something, which is next week.
Oh,
if you're not an RPer,
early.
if you're not an RPer and you don't mind rolling the dice on like if they add some kind of power reward from one of the later campaign chapters, which I don't even know if we can know that yet. I don't know if those were all encrypted or what on PTR, or if they were testable. Either way, I'm not sure. The only thing that matters for the campaign on your alts really is earning your spark. And you don't actually need to do your campaign to earn the spark, but it is the best way to do it. So on your alts, you should, before earning any Loam Niffin rep, make sure you go inside the big house in the middle and take the quest, A Worthy Ally Loam Niffin. Take that quest before you even unlock the Loam Niffin rep on those characters, and then literally the campaign step where you unlock Loam Niffin rep gives you enough rep to turn that in immediately. So
that's the quest that gives you the spark.
That gives you your half spark, and then
I
there's
had no
another
idea
quest from outside the hut that lets you, it's a one-time thing of like, hey, find a half spark and I'll give you 2 half sparks, right? Give me 1 half and I'll give you 2. And that's like a one-time thing. And once you do that, you can have your first spark of Shadow Flame. That is the main thing. The first and only important checklist item on all your characters this week that you care about is earn your spark of Shadow Flame. And
that is
that's it.
So actually, I guess this is not something we okay. So we talked about how there was no catch up, and we for the Shadowflame Sparks on the previous podcast episode. Blizzard has clarified that there actually is baked in catch up already, and the catch up is going to be tied to doing things such as dungeons. It's going to be tied to doing things such as raid, and it's just going to be tied to content for getting those sparks to catch you back up, because this is going to be a perpetual system that works. But the Sparks of Shadowflame are tied to the aiding the Accord style rep gain Niffin quest.
Exactly.
For current characters. Sorry, for current characters that are all the way caught up.
Yeah, so if you don't get your spark this week, if you don't get your half spark from that this week, then presumably starting next week, there will be a chance of it dropping from these things. We don't know what that chance is looking like. This uses the word higher and doesn't say higher than anything, so it might mean higher than Season 1 sparks.
Yeah,
there's no way to be sure.
Than 0?
It's one of the classic blue posts where we pull out the old grammar investigation and try and figure out what the words mean. But either way, that I would say if you care about a character a lot, it's probably worth making sure that you're just doing the Worthy Ally Loam Niffin quest each week.
Yeah.
But if you want to play an alt later in the patch, there is a good chance that this will let you catch up pretty quick on those sparks. Hopefully from just doing the content that earns you the crests that make the sparks good anyways. Which brings me to the other kind of thing with these sparks. Most people should probably not be using that spark this week. That committing your spark this week is something you should do if if you are sure about what it will make, and or if you're like returning and your character's item level 390 or something, and you can get a big upgrade by crafting a 424 with the Spark of Shadowflame, then you could consider it and be a little. The barrier for how confident you need to be and what your spark to be is a little bit lower. But if you're a mythic geared character, you have a bunch of 421s on your character, I would not commit that Spark of Shadowflame this week. I think that would be
So
aggressive.
So something I want to also say is they've been changing embellishments a little bit.
Yeah.
And there was one embellishment that was sending particularly high for Moonkin. It was like, was it spore collar shoulder guards, something like that. There's like spore collar shoulder guards. Let's just say it like that. They changed.
Wasn't that the healer
functionally-
enchant? Spore collar or whatever?
There was also healer enchant that they nerfed, but that's not what I'm referring to.
There's another spore collar.
Yeah, there's a new embellishment that they added this season for leather wears, and it was like these shoulders, and they changed the functionality of how the proc worked. And if you crafted that on the first 2 days of the patch, assuming that it was going to be Biss, you were going to be quite sad. So I'm with Dratnos here. I would at least wait until later on into next week. Like you could craft it early next week, and it's probably fine. But I would wait even until maybe you do your M plus and you do your raid and stuff like that to try to have stuff crafted. But embellishments are also relevant too.
Yeah. That being said, if you have any leftover sparks of ingenuity that could craft anything good for you, you can probably send down to 0 or 1 of those. It might be worth holding on to 1 spark of ingenuity to craft a new embellishment at 421, though, if there are new embellishments that are particularly good. So you may wish to even save your last spark of ingenuity for that case as well, if it would make you a very marginal like stat upgrade or something like that.
Or even just as a backup, if you loot a piece of gear in the first week that replaces one of your embellish slots.
Yeah.
And you just like need to have another embellish on hand. That'd
exactly.
be a good idea too.
Because the goal should always be have 2 good embellishments equipped. Don't have an upgrade sitting in your bag that you're not equipping because it breaks your embellishments. Like those are all the kind of fail cases to try and avoid. So similarly, a lot of people are, don't have another necklace, a second backup necklace for their lariat, for instance. Might be worth just crafting a 421 Spark of Ingenuity necklace to replace that if you want to change your embellishment or whatever.
I restored one.
Yeah.
I really? Restore one. Yeah.
I looted a neck from the new zone. I've only played the patch for like 2 hours, but I looted a neck from the heroic weekly thing.
Oh my
god! It's like
God.
415, and it can go up to 437 or whatever. But I'm sure we'll talk about this more. But don't upgrade that if you get that past 424.
Yeah, you can't even this week anyways. But yeah.
Oh, true. But that's just like sitting in my bags waiting for some kind of other upgrade to make it so I want to wear it. And also I'm sitting on 1 old spark as well, just in case, to replace some embellishments.
Okay, so let's talk about that Heroic Dungeons quest, because that is definitely something that you may benefit by doing. It's one of the few things that is kind of good, I guess, this week maybe to do.
I mean, we did it as a guild. Okay, we did it whenever we saw it as my guild, and then the moment we realized exactly what it gave, we had a ping in the announcement channel on our Discord that goes, "Lamau JK, you don't have to do this. You can if you want to, though."
Yeah, it's good. It's not great. So this quest is called Fighting as its own reward. It comes from Valdrakken, or you can get it from your dungeon journal. And it says complete 5 Dragonflight dungeons on heroic difficulty. And it rewards a piece of champion 1 out of 8 gear, which is eye level 415. And Trell, as you noted, it goes all the way up to 437, which is almost as high. It's the second highest reward track. The highest is the hero track, which goes up to 441 and is slightly better. And you can also instead take a Drake's Crest out of this reward. Drake's Crests are unlikely to be a resource that limits very many players. The only types of players that might be limited by Drake's Crests are like M+ers that are spamming 11s and will never do normal raid. If that's you, then you might want the Drake's Crests out of this. But otherwise, almost everybody, I think, neither of these are likely to be big upgrades for you, but there's like a small chance you'll get a small upgrade out of the items chest, even if you're a Mythic Raider, because like we said, it can go up to 424, and that sort of leads us into the upgrade system and talking about how to best play this. I've made a bunch of videos and resource content on this, but it is pretty hard to get screwed too much by this upgrade system is the nice thing.
I was going to say, maybe we should go over which crests come from which content, because one thing you can do is in game, if you go to the upgrade NPCs, any of the upgrade NPCs, and just like put an item in the window and don't do anything, but you can see which items it costs to upgrade to which item levels. And it also says in that window which crests you use for that each upgrade and where they drop from. So it's kind of nice educationally, but like
Yeah.
it's good to know which crests come from which content, I think.
So okay.
I was about to ask, in addition to that, is there any gating behind Flightstone acquisition? Like, what's the deal with Flightstones next week as well?
So Flightstones are the universal currency. All upgrades require Flightstones, including the very lowest eye level, and they are plentiful, and you get them from a bunch of content. It is very hard to to need more Flightstones than you can get.
Yeah.
If you ever do need Flightstones, you can get it from any content, and you can farm a bunch pretty quickly. A lot of people hit their 2,000 Flightstone holding cap right away. It is somewhat confusing because it says season cap when you mouse over it, but it is just a holding cap. You can hold 2,000, you can spend down to 0, and then you can get another 2,000. And so Flightstones, I would say, basically never worry about.
Okay.
Whelplings.
Okay. The current tier, if you clear the current tier this week, it gives you like a couple hundred Flightstones.
Yeah.
Oh, does it really? I actually didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, it gives you them in the form of an item that you break to get Flightstones. So you can hold that item and effectively have Flightstones over the cap, which would be relevant min-max if it weren't for the fact that the Flightstone cap is pretty fake. It is not a resource you are ever likely to be hurting for.
The fact that it says there's a cap, but you're not hitting the cap. You're not upgrading that much gear.
Exactly. Flightstones it is very hard to ever need Flightstones, and if that ever does happen, you can grind out all that you need very quickly. So, Flightstones are chill. Crests are the things that make the upgrade system kind of sing, though. If you want to upgrade up to the 441 level, you're going to need a lot of crests of the different types. And also, if you want to make crafted gear at 447, you need to use crests as well for that. So, before we talk about where they're all from, let's just talk about the discount system, because the discount system is really nice. If you are upgrading in a slot that you already have higher item level, you get a 60% discount on Flightstone cost in that slot, and that is account-wide as well.
That's so cool. I didn't know that.
If you get better shoulders that have better stats, the Flightstone cost is really cheap to bring it all the way up. And if your alt is playing, Flightstone cost is really cheap. You don't need to grind very many Flightstones on your alts. Very nice. There is also a crest discount system that is not account-wide. So your crests are always looking just at your own character. But if you have 444 shoulders, upgrading shoulders anywhere along the track below that, which is the whole upgrade track, will never cost you crests. It will just cost you the reduced Flightstone amount.
Oh, that's great. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
So there is no crest catch up for alts then?
Yeah, so there's no account-wide thing here, and I've seen a lot of posts that have acted like there is, and have suggested like having your alts get the high item level pieces first so that your main, can save crests. That does not work. That min-max would absolutely work if it worked that way, which it doesn't, which is good, because that would be degenerate as all hell. So
that would be so stupid.
The other caveat with this system is that rings, trinkets, and one-handed weapons look at your second best item in that slot rather than your best. So if you have a 441 ring and a 420 ring, you can't just upgrade the 420 ring for cheap. You would need a second good ring for that purpose. So be aware of that little caveat. So with that being said, effectively what that means is that the Whelpling's crests and the Drake's crests that you can earn starting this week, that are effectively the LFR and normal crests respectively, are pretty unlikely to be a limiting factor, because if you already have, say, 424 gear in some slots, or you're going to earn some early in the new patch from doing some 16 keys or whatever, then you're not going to need very many crests to upgrade, because every slot that you get one of those, you'll never ever need any crests to upgrade out in that slot ever again, of the Drakes or the Whelplings ones. So if you are going to do at least, medium 15-ish or higher keys, and late normal, early heroic raid bosses, I would say you can treat the Drakes and the Whelplings crests as a resource that if you can ever upgrade your character using them, you should just do it. Just pull the trigger on any upgrades that use Drakes or Whelplings crests, including on that quest we were talking about here. This one gives you a 415 piece. Upgrading that thing to 424 using the Drake's crests, I endorse that. If that is an upgrade for your character, do it. And you are very unlikely to ever get punished by not having any Drake's crests and needing them. If you do a full clear of normal, you'll get like 10 or I guess you'll get like 7 Drake's Crests out of that, and that makes it so you're not even it's not even the weekly cap is enough. It's like just the amount you'll get from clearing normal raid will be enough Drake's Crest that you should never run short on this resource if you are if you're kind of one of those people that is clearing the raid on normal or better.
So Drake is normal, right?
Yeah, Drake is normal. Whelplings is LFR. And so Whelplings upgrades from 398 to 411 if you don't already have higher in that slot. Drake upgrades from 411 to 424 if you don't already have higher in that slot. Worms is where things start to get interesting. These crests aren't available yet this week, but they come out next week, and they'll drop from 11 to 15 keys. And they'll also drop from Heroic Raid. And a full clear of Heroic Raid, again, will give you 100 of your 150 fragment cap for the week. And this is the item that is most likely to be a limiting resource for players. But even still, it won't be past the fifth week of the patch. Past the 5th week of the patch, you literally can't run out of any crests, basically, if you aside from like the amount you have. But the total cap, the total seasonal cap, is just going to be higher than the amount you could ever spend because of the discount system, right?
So,
Yeah, and
what
it's
level
11 to 15, so like a lot of
Yeah.
Mythic Raiders that are listening to the show are going to be like, well, do I need to go and do like 5 15 keys a week then and also do my 20s?
Maybe it may be
Maybe,
worthwhile to do a little bit of those. You get again 100 of your 150 Worms crests come from your heroic clear if you're full clearing heroic, but getting those last 50 is probably going to be worth for the first few weeks. Yeah.
I mean, you would. In what scenario would you even go and do the 11 to 15 keys if you can, let's say, do 20s or whatever?
Because the Worms crests are needed. You can't replace them with the Mythic crests. So getting to your Worms cap for the week, I think is probably going to be worth doing.
And that
for the first few
It's
weeks.
unclear.
That's to upgrade normal gear, right?
It upgrades any gear from 424 to 437. So that includes heroic gear as
It
well.
also includes heroic gear. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is about that is like, let's say you just want to skip the 437 threshold and take an item from like 424 to 441 or whatever or higher with the mythic materials. Like, how many heroic crests are needed in that situation? Or if you drop an item that's like already kind of close to mythic, I guess at the mythic plus 20 level.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it costs, but it might be good to plan it out once we do know.
Somebody in chat also said there's a crest trader that lets you trade down crests.
There
is.
is.
That true?
There is indeed,
Oh,
but you're
really?
still going to want to earn all of your mythic and heroic ones probably for the first few weeks.
Okay.
So I would say, yeah, doing 11s to 15s on rating characters is probably something that will be worth doing for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Not many, but just like
How
a few.
many?
To cap your Worms crest, you need to do 5 in time.
Okay, so 5. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
Keys.
I heard there was maybe something about like if you kept doing 20s, you would get the worms after you hit your aspect cap or something, but I've never been able to find proof on that. But if that system was in place, that would be really good. And if that system isn't in place, they should make that be how it works. But if that isn't how it works, then yeah, there will be a little bit of a reason to go and drop down and do some 11s for an hour or so to get those worms crest. Because Trell, like you said, what if I get an item from my end of dungeon plus 20 and I want to upgrade that to 441? Well, here's the spreadsheet that I made, and we've got some color coding and stuff.
There is no fucking way.
You made this already, man.
Yeah. So
Insane.
basically, if you're getting an item from the end of dungeon on a 19 or higher, it's going to drop at 431, and it will require 2 heroic crests, but only 1 mythic crest to get all the way up to 441. Mythic crests only upgrade from 437 to 441, so you'll only ever need 1 mythic crest per item. But pretty much every item is going to require 2, 3, or 4 heroic crests to upgrade, and you can only earn 10 per week. So the heroic crests are going to be the bottleneck. Yes, you can downgrade mythic crests to heroic ones, but you're going to be hungry for basically both for that reason. And you're going to want to hit for the first like 3 weeks, you're going to want to hit your cap of both of them.
I am so glad that you were on this podcast to explain
Yeah.
this fucking
So
system.
let me explain the part where... So basically, it's really hard to get screwed with any of your decisions because of the fact you get this upgrade discount system.
Yeah.
Unless you are a mythic raider or a high key doer that wants to min-max in the first 5 weeks of the patch. If that is you, there is a thing you should avoid doing, and that is using heroic crests to upgrade from 424 to 431. Because you can get 431s out of your plus 20 or plus 19 keys, and that will mean that it won't cost you crests to do that upgrading even on better
Okay.
statted items in that slot. And
And
like
it'll
we were
save you
talking about,
crests.
the heroic
Yeah.
crests are the limiting resource. You know, you would be spending 4 per item if you were upgrading from 424 up to 441. 4 heroic and 1 mythic crest would be the upgrade cost for that run, and that is, I guess it'd be 3 heroic crests and it'd be from 428, but whatever. Either way, you're talking about spending more heroic crests than you can earn per week by quite a bit. So the best thing to do if you are like somebody who's going to push higher than like 16 or do mythic bosses early is to avoid upgrading from 424 to 431. That is the range that you want to not use your crests in. It's fine to upgrade up to 424, even if it costs Drake's or Whelpling's crests along the way, because for whatever reason, that's always fine. And it's also fine to upgrade from 431 up to 437 or 441, because that's, getting you the good stuff, and that's getting you the discount if you get something better in that slot in future. But the 424 to 431 range, you're spending crests that you might not have to spend because you can just farm that slot from dungeons at 19. Yeah.
And dungeons at 19 and 20 are certainly doable the first week. So like if you remember the difficulty of how hard 20s were at the very beginning of Shadowlands, or not Shadowlands, Dragonflight, these are much easier, right? Like we were able
Yeah.
to time 20s on the PTR at 410 item level. And it's like basically nobody has 410 item level right now. Most people are like 420. And this is especially true once you complete like a raid and you're 425 item level or something like that. Maybe you get a bit of extra tier, maybe you get a little bit of better tier, or just have more experiences in the dungeons. You're going to be able to do, if you were able to do 20s at the beginning of Dragonflight, you will be able to pretty consistently do 20s at the beginning of this patch. A lot easier, honestly, too.
I will say,
this
of course,
is obviously
okay.
relative to everyone's skill and experience, but on average, honestly, the dungeons do seem quite a bit easier. I'd say like half as hard in some cases, way more than that for other cases. Like Underrod, Freehold seem pretty easy.
Half meaning like 2 key levels here is what I think you mean.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say you put half the effort in and you can time a 20 relative to the beginning of Dragonflight.
Personally, you're sweating to time a 20, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now that being said, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm still not going to be doing, higher keys or mythic raid for the first few months of this patch or something, then you can basically ignore what I'm saying, because I'm talking about a way to get around some of these worm crest costs if you can do that content early in the patch. If you're not going to be doing 17 or higher keys or mythic raid early into the patch, then instead you should just use all of your crests on upgrades. It is worth noting the Worm's crests are still likely to be the one you'll be bottlenecked on the most, so probably spend them on chest pieces, legs, shoulders, weapons, before spending them on bracers, belts, boots, that kind of stuff, so that you're getting the most bang for your buck. But if you're not going to be doing higher keys or mythic raid early in the patch, then you don't need to look at that 424 to 431 zone as the inefficient upgrade zone. But if you are doing 20 keys at the start of the patch, and yeah, like we said, that'll be more people than at the start of Dragonflight, then that is the way to be most efficient here. Now, okay.
I was going to say, it's also probably worth thinking about if you have access to higher tiers of raid than normal, you're going to clear normal raid at some point. Try not to upgrade anything before you clear normal raid, because it drops in that window, right? The 424 to 431, I think.
So normal drops you from the 415 to 421 range, or 424 range, I think. Yeah. I guess you can get very rare items at 431, but for the most part, normal is like the mythic vault levels, and then heroic is the next step up. But if you are clearing even some heroic bosses, then yeah, it does. You can get 428, 431s from heroic that might make it so you can save some heroic crests. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also like you might get an abyss item on normal and heroic, which you can now upgrade this as of this season to be relevant,
which
a little bit higher.
The nice thing though is that like even if you upgrade a bad item in a slot, if you get the Abyss item later, if you get Abyss, or a tier item later, the upgrade cost will be cheaper in that slot. But the problem is if you like upgrade bracers and then you get Abyss shoulders or Abyss, tier shoulders or Abyss trinket, and you've spent your crest for the week, you'll feel a little sad. Again, you'll only ever be sad for like a week with this new system. You will run out of things to upgrade or crests that you'll need very quickly, like in the first month, even if you ignore all of the ways to min-max it. But if you do the stuff I'm saying here, maybe you'll be a little bit happier in like week 2, week 3 of the patch.
So how does this relate to crafting?
Yes.
Do you need like a brand new spark from the season for every single piece that you're crafting to upgrade from season 1 crafted gear to season 2 crafted gear?
Yeah, every single item you can either upgrade the season 1 crafted items or you can craft fresh with a season 2 spark. It pretty much is the same either way, whether you do one or the other. The only thing you're going to save is a couple of mats. So the only real reason to really upgrade a season 1 item instead of crafting fresh is if you use like a flavor pocket, because those things are expensive, and you can keep that by upgrading. But otherwise, crafting new and upgrading old is pretty much the same thing. And yes, it will cost you a spark each time. The sparks by themselves bring items up to 424. You can also use an enchanted crest to upgrade them further. So the enchanted crests are taking the place of the primal infusions and concentrated primal infusions.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you can use 3 heroic crests and make an enchanted heroic crest, an enchanted worms crest that will take items up to 437. Or you can use 4 mythic crests to make an enchanted mythic crest that will take items up to 447. Now, the basic rule of thumb here.
Sparks.
Yeah, you still do need to use sparks for this as well. So the basic rule of thumb here is never, ever, 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 unless you are never setting foot into 16 or higher keys or mythic raid, and it is June or later. Otherwise, you are never allowed to make an enchanted worms crest. Do not ever do that. You are inting your character a little bit by doing it. It's not a big deal, but that is wrong. That is a trap laid by the developers against their own creation. So it's basically because the worms crests are in high demand and the mythic crests, you'll actually probably be downgrading some mythic crests into heroic crests in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
But it costs 1 more mythic crest and you get to make an item 447 instead of 437. So if you can do the 16 or higher keys that drop the mythic crests, that is what you should be using to make your spark gear. Do not enchant a worms crest because the worms crests are valuable, and why make a weaker upgrade mat if you can make the stronger one? Now, if you can't do 16 or higher keys or mythic raid, eventually it can be right to make an enchanted worms crest, but even then, you should only be doing that after you've used the worms crest to upgrade, because you're just getting more bang from your buck using those crests to upgrade than you will be to make enchanted crests with them. So that is the... Like, crafting spark gear with enchanted aspects crest, enchanted mythic crest is good. Crafting with the enchanted worms crest is... Do not ever do that.
Do not. Why
and
did you do that?
Just to clarify for people that are listening but haven't like seen all these crest terminologies, like the mythic crests are called the aspects crests, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
The
and
heroic ones are
ones are
worms.
Yeah.
Normal are drakes, and LFR tier are whelpling.
Yeah. Which I... Yeah, basically enchanted aspects good, enchanted worms bad. If you really want to use an enchanted worms for some reason, it's not going to put you too far behind, but you are kind of incinerating 3 worms crests for a lot less than you could be getting, unless you're never going to be able to do the 16 or higher keys, in which case, I would still say you can probably get better value out of those worms crests, but once you run out of good things to upgrade with them, you can make the enchanted worms crest. It's also worth noting there is an enchanted worms crest from Renown 20 with the Loam Niffin, so if you're close to that, you can get one from there if you would want to use one and save the actual crests. Mythic Raiders need not worry too much about that because enchanted aspects crests are very good, and that's what we'll be using if you're capable of doing mythic raid or 16 or higher keys. Enchanted aspects crest for all of your shadow flame sparks. Basically every time a shadow flame spark gets created, you should be looking to have an enchanted aspects crest to pair it with to make yourself a 447, which is really powerful. That's 3 item levels more powerful than crafted gear was last season. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and I mean it is the equivalent of like Kurog Grim Totem Dathia track. Like this, it's the 421 equivalent. And so there's only 2 bosses in the raid that have slightly better gear than the highest tier of crafted now, and that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So when do you guys think you're going to use your first spark on a big 447 banger piece?
Either really late the first week or early second week is kind of what I'm projecting.
I think I'll probably send it maybe mid or early next week. I'm not 100% sure, but
It
As
depends on
soon as I
when
want the
we're done with
power.
splits. Yeah, it depends on when we're
I
done with
think it.
splits, when I'm progging mythic. Like, once we actually start getting into mythic progression is
Yeah.
when I'm sending mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you get to a hard boss, or you see like the world first raiders are struggling with like the last boss on heroic or something, for example, and you're like, oh, maybe we should craft our spark pieces before then.
I mean,
It,
that's a time where my alts are probably sending their sparks even.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, alts may send it before mains. Although the thing is, the alts, if
I
you're
wouldn't even
using
have
your
the
spark,
crest.
you probably want the enchanted mythic crest, and then that
Yeah.
requires you to like do some 16s on your alts. So that
Yeah.
that may not happen super early in the patch. Maybe even you send an enchanted worms crest on your alt in that case. Although even then, I still think that's probably less value than just upgrading some items.
Yeah.
you also probably don't want to send it in a slot that you could get tier in until you
Right.
have your 4 set.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors to think about with this one.
I think crafting early to get powerful though is probably good on your main. Like especially if you're pretty confident what you want it to be, just get that power for as soon as you start wiping to anything. Just making your character better is really
I-
good.
Yeah, I mean, Moonkin has some set embellishment items. The toxified, not toxified, the slime ooze boots or whatever for balance is like probably something that I'm just gonna upgrade from. I have it at 421 right now. Just upgrade it all the way up to 447.
Yeah, it's the same for me actually. I'm playing brew, so I'm probably gonna make the flaring cowl or the same boots that Tuttle was just talking about
Yeah,
at 447.
I mean, just I think if I was able to craft a dagger, I probably would do that instead. And there still is like the option for me to do a dagger instead, but like there's some weird shit with so I need a toxified patch too, which
Right.
only can be crafted on the leather gear, and it's like am I supposed to craft an int dagger here? I don't know.
Yeah, because if you do that, you're delaying your toxified patch craft until like week 4 of the raid or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weapons is an interesting one as well. If you're a two-handed class, you maybe are waiting on your first spark until the second week of the raid, and then sending 2 sparks because you need 2 sparks still to make a two-hander. So that may well be the thing to do.
Do you think that's worth for any 2-hand spec? I feel like no, in my opinion. And plus, there's a lot of good 2-handers in the raid, especially if you're agi.
If you're agi, there's that very rare from Rashok that's good. If you're strength, there's Ashkander from Nefarian. So yeah, it's probably not worth for many specs. Maybe for something like Blood Decay, you can make an argument or something, but even there, it's probably just send it on like, Frostfire Belt or something and something else.
Yeah, the problem is like you spend 2 sparks, 4 weeks worth of sparks, and then suddenly you have an opportunity to get the two-hander from raid that would be just as good or even better than the spark item. It's like that would not feel great.
I mean, for me too, like one of the better weapons that I can even get comes out of Brackenhide, and it's like a staff, and it's just like, am I supposed to send on an int dagger? Like that's kind of awkward when I can like kind of grind out a really solid option too, and upgrade that with gear as opposed to having to fully craft it.
Yeah, so I think the main thing that most people will be doing is just getting 2 good embellishments at 447 as their first 2 sparks. Yeah.
I think that like for me, I would craft like the moment that I'm standing in front of Terros Mythic or something like that. Like the Terros Mythic equivalent is like that level of difficulty. I'm probably sending my craft.
All right. In terms of other stuff, so for the first few weeks, then I've seen some questions about like what level keys should be being done. I mentioned that there might be a reason to farm a few of the lower keys of the like 11 to 15s for the worms crests. And that might be worth doing, but like the general question of what level should you be grinding your gear from? I've seen people make the argument, oh, plus 16s are where the aspect crests start dropping. Let's farm those. Oh, plus 17 gear is where the hero track gear starts dropping, and that's the stuff you can upgrade all the way to 441. Let's farm those. But actually, it's even better to go all the way up to 19 for hero track gear, because then it's 1 less Worm's Crest to upgrade from 431 to 441 instead of from 428 to 441.
Oh, wow.
So there is value. Like, if you can do... Basically, the answer is there's good stuff at every level.
Yeah.
But the higher you can go, the better, up to 20. And 20s and 18s are also better than 19s and 17s, respectively. But that's only for Great Vault purposes. Just because they give you higher stuff in your vault. So once you filled out your vault, like I think in theory, the best thing to do if you could do anything, if you could do any key level would be 8 20s and then farm 19s and then plus maybe 5 15s so that you get the the Worm's Crest potentially out of those, but that is. I think that's going to like. I don't think you should trick yourself into doing 16s if you can do 19s. Basically, that is leaving stuff on the table.
No value in doing PvP. Like there's some seasons where like doing PvP for vault filling is actually pretty lucrative. This season is not one of those seasons, right?
But you could get the Omni token. Is that the rating reward?
From
Yes.
from 1800. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You absolutely can.
So that's another thing
I
to
was
talk
gonna
about
say,
is the Omni token. Yeah.
yeah, like I love that the Mythic plus key level is super relevant. Like every key level you go up, you get something really good overall. Plus, the higher key you can go for the super sweaty people like us. If you go higher than 20, the faster you can get that Omni token.
Speak for yourself.
So, what do you mean?
I am not
You are
sweaty.
the
I am
same.
normal. We are not
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, so basically it's every key level you can do up is pretty much always good to go higher. Of course, if you are only able to comfortably farm 16s, farming 16s is going to be great. There's going to be a lot of good lucrative stuff you can get out of there, but don't trick yourself into farming 16s if you can do the 19s. And don't even doing the 19s, doing the 20s is even better because you get the better vault loot. So that is, I think, my answer to, because people ask like, should I be farming 11? Should I be farming 16s or whatever? And it's not really a season where you get a lot out of farming stuff that's lower than what your potential is.
Yeah, probably just whatever you're comfortable doing.
Yeah.
It's the farm level.
Speaking of which, keys are dropping by 9 levels going into next week, +1 if you depleted. So 10 levels if you depleted from this week. So bear that in mind. But since, as we were saying, you may want to end up doing some 11 to 15 keys anyways, it's not that dangerous if you, like, say you just deplete a 20 and you get a 10 out of your box and you just like, do the 10, then do the 12 or the 13, do the 15, right? Like that process is going to include some keys you may end up wanting to have done next week anyways. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel a huge pressure to like, oh, I gotta push a 28 this week, gotta set up for next week or else I'm forever behind. Like it's not a few of those lower level keys along the way you may end up wanting to have done a few of them anyways, so don't worry too much about that.
I have a 26 in my bag right now. I'm not even doing a key this week. Fuck it. Who cares? Like I'll get a 15 next week and it's fine.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you might get a 16.
I might even get 16. Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works.
Probably, yeah. If you got a 26,
I almost think it might be better to get a 15 than a 16 next week if you like really, really want to min max.
Maybe you could always lower your key though if you from the keystone lower person. So.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, never mind. Maybe it's good to lower it to 15.
Maybe
go 3 chests that if possible, or 2
but then
chests.
I'm gonna get a Halls of Infusion 15, and that's not even doable.
Yeah, Halls of Infusion is a little spooky, but you just re-roll it off of the other keys, the higher keys you're doing off of your group mates until it's a nice dungeon.
Yeah, the way this goes these days is the new dungeons, the Dragonflight dungeons, are going to be very difficult for the first few weeks until a bunch of patches go through.
Just Halls of Infusion, honestly. I think that I don't even think Bracken is that bad. Like, I don't think Bracken is that bad. I didn't think Uldaman was like. I thought Uldaman was hard. I didn't think it was undoable though.
Well, I do think that all the new dungeons still have a ton of kicks in general. Like Brackenhide, if you don't know what's going on, your whole group's going to have diseases the entire time because people aren't going to kick the correct stuff.
That's true.
Uldaman, I haven't really done recently, but I remember there being lots of things you have to stop and kick.
Last boss Uldaman is actually kind of tough.
Yeah.
It requires you to play defensively pretty well, which is it's something that you acquire as you do more and more keys. You learn how to play well defensively.
I remember the start of season 1. It definitely felt like all the Dragonflight dungeons sucked and were really hard, and like the good dungeons were the old ones. But then by the end of the expansion, the reverse was kind of true, right? It was like, oh god, not Temple. Don't do this to me, Keystone Vendor. Not like this, right? And then you could, like, they fixed Ruby Life Pools and Algathar and stuff, and Azure Vault, even all those dungeons were great by the end, I think. So we'll see if that pattern repeats here. Yeah.
I feel like we're going to zone into Underrot day 1, and right before the last boss, there's just going to be 4 new packs with 3 casters in each pack.
Dude, Underrot on the PTR had to be the most giga-free thing I've ever seen, by the way.
Yeah.
The timer, generous as hell. The dungeon, really easy.
That's what Temple was on PTR as well. And that was my joke, is like, for those that didn't know this, Temple was really free. The timer was super easy. And then week 1, they just suddenly added all those packs in the last boss room. It was like a huge shock for us.
They just weren't even there, and then it wasn't even like something they teased. You just the door opens and it's an oh no 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 moment, and then you're like, okay, what the fuck?
All right. Let's move on to our tip of the week segment. Since we're going to be gone for 3 weeks, I've prepared 3 tips of the week for you, but they are
No
all
way.
stupid. So, these were gained during the Forbidden Reach farming that I was doing last week to get my Onyx amulets together. I learned some fun facts about how some of the Forbidden Reach rares work. So, first tip, if you ever go back and you do Duzalgor, which is the one in the place that you have to like extra action button to stay antidoted
Oh,
to
yeah, the
avoid getting
poison
sent
cave.
out from, yeah, you actually get energy bar, and it fills up faster if you're standing near the clouds of smoke. So you have to press your extra action button basically on cooldown if you're near the clouds of smoke. But if you don't have the extra action button yet, if you're like down there and you're choking and you're looking for the vial, try and stay away from the smoke, and you'll be able to stay there for longer. You get like
So you
seven per second if you're standing in the smoke, only 2 per second if you're not in the smoke.
I'm
That's-
gonna
that-
sound
You could save some finger globals.
Yeah, save some fingies.
at the expense of sounding really stupid. I didn't realize that there was a vial that you could use that extra action button to not get teleported back up after a few seconds.
Yeah, you can pick some up outside, or you can. There's one actually down in the boss room, and I would always try and get the one in the boss room before I get sent back up. Never worked. Very, very rarely worked. So that was a fun tip.
I always get teleported back up.
Another tip is for Mad Eye Carry, who's one of the like piratey bosses you can fight in a cave. There are gold piles that he'll throw, and if you stand in the gold pile, if you touch a gold pile, you get 15 seconds of plus 15% haste. So that's really cool. They're like shiny little gold piles. Whenever you're doing that rare, which I'm sure all of us are going to do that rare many more times in our lives. Surely there will be some reason we all go back to Forbidden Reach at some
sure.
point in the future. You'll know that handy tip now. And then finally, I actually have a 10.1 tip, which is from Van Heelen, who says if your character is too big to dragon ride into the doors of the Niffen main building, you can actually soar in through the hole in the roof, which will save you some time. So shout out to Van Heelen. Good tech for getting into the Loam Niffen, big building thing.
So useful as always.
There is no fucking way that our tip was you can dragon ride through the top hole of the Niffen building. There is no way that's our tip.
It's a great tip. Thank you, Van Heelen. Don't listen to Tettles. He's a hater.
Do you have any tips for how to not get shot out of the sky by the Kalashi or whatever?
It's so annoying actually because they have that tech that Dragonbane keypad, but instead of instantly losing all your stacks on the ground, it slowly decays.
Slowly decays.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will say you do instantly lose all your stacks if you fly out of the area, though. So if you're at like 8 stacks, but you're close to the border of where the Kalashi will detect you, you just fly out for a little bit, and then you can fly back in and reset your stacks that way. So
Yeah, maybe
The
someone
fact
can
that he-
make a
The
weak
fact that he
aura.
did have a tip is bananas.
I love my outdoor world content. It's good times. All right, Trell, what is your tip of the week?
Well, I didn't have much, so I originally put in the tip was there's multiple entrances to the new zone. I didn't realize that until like a couple minutes into the patch. But
Yeah.
actually, I just put a bunch of resources on our Weak Auras channel,
Okay.
and I got some questions from the Overshield Weak Aura that I mentioned last week or the week before, whenever that was. It's also in there. So be sure to come by our Discord and go on that channel. There's actually a lot of good stuff.
There's a new
I
auto
linked
marker, right?
Yeah, season 2 auto marker is basically ready. It probably needs to be updated a couple more times. I was doing some testing for him the other day. So if you want to grab it now, you can, but just be sure to update it after a few
Yeah.
days of the patch, probably.
If you don't have this, by the way, have we ever talked about Weak Aura's Companion? I think we might have, but this could be a good time to shout it out again.
Oh, that is a good one.
Uh,
I love the companion
so-
app.
If you go to weakauras.wtf and then you go and try and download this, and then your browser tells you it's malware and you tell your browser to shut up like 5 times, it will let you download this thing called Weak Aura's Companion. And this will basically scan your WoW game and show you all of your weak auras and which ones are ready to update. And if you set this up, you can actually have it be so that in game, you just have an update button next to each of your auras in the weak auras window. You just click that and you can import whichever one you like and whichever parts of it that you want to actually update.
So there's actually some important things to note about the companion. If you have like a package or something like that you have previously edited, if
Yeah.
you update it, it is importing all of the stuff that you have
Right.
previously deleted.
If you've taken
and
if your guildie linked you an inversion week or on Razagath that was part
Yes.
of the BDG Razagath pack, this week Aura's thing will be like, oh, you've got the BDG Razagath pack. Do you want to update this? And if you click update, you're going to install like 400 auras that are all in that pack. So
Correct.
You do need to be careful of the things you update with that. But it is a really nifty way to have your auras be up to date.
And generally, I like to use the update auras one, and keep some of the metadata from what my auras were previously,
Yes.
including like the size and the shape and position and stuff like that, as opposed to
Custom options.
whatever it was by
often.
default.
You want to keep those from the old one and not update them.
Yeah,
and it
I'm
gives you
always
those
really wary
options.
of
It's pretty
this.
straightforward. Yeah.
Because I customize my week orders a lot, and I'm like I've gotten it before and used it, and I've deleted it. Like it might just be good to know about, to have on hand in case your stuff's really out of date for a couple week orders.
Yeah, you can always also, instead of updating your auras, you can create a copy and just make sure that the new one isn't like too much different than the one you have. But of course, that's annoying and a lot of work as well. So either way, though, I think it's a good thing to at least be aware of, is the weak auras companion. Okay, Tettles. We have. Oops, I had sound. Okay.
Oh, you need sound. I think you
sound?
need sound for this one.
All right, we'll play
This
some
is-
sound for this.
This is a peak clip.
Hold W here. Do not get pulled in. And you're holding.
Rallying cry.
Defensives, Hellstone, Hellspot if you have to.
Anti-magic sword.
Molo, don't die. Select. You're gonna die.
Oh, dude.
Okay.
Oh, we've all been there. Oh, wow. That actually looks awfully similar to what happens to me on that boss every week.
Is that actually you? Is that the tank POV?
That does
that's
happen when you're
remastered.
taking on that boss
Did
pretty
he
often.
not put a spirit in midair and save himself at some point, or did I
No.
miss that?
No, he
maybe
did not.
maybe on
Bro.
cooldown or something, or maybe I don't know. Sometimes you get a little flustered as well when because sometimes there's just a tornado where there has no business of being a tornado. It's very annoying.
Dude, I played Windwalker on that boss all tier, and I'd get knocked so many times, put a spirit in midair, and just like drop back down on the ground somewhere safe after being knocked. But like sometimes I'd put a spirit, and then the tornado would wander underneath my spirit, and so I get knocked a second time.
Yeah, because the tornadoes
So
wander.
toxic.
Dude, some
Yeah.
tank specs, you're sitting there and you need to get yourself knocked into the tornado to cancel your momentum from the knockbacks as well. That's
Yeah.
like if you're playing a bad tank spec that doesn't have like charge to get back or whatever, you're just sitting there.
Paladin.
like prop paladin.
Yeah, prop paladin, exactly. It's like you're literally just like you see the tornado moving behind you, you're like stay still, and then like sometimes it just desyncs a little bit and you just get lobbed off the platform. That I'm not sad to see that fight go. That is
Yeah, me too.
that is a good one to be gone. But good clip, good content.
That was good. That was a good
Oh, that
clip.
was great.
Yeah. That was from Blaze on stream as well, so we'll link the clip in the description if anybody wants to go watch that. Good stream as well for Raid Prague, as well. Fun to watch. Okay, we have the Patreon thanking segment ahead of us, and then we may have Q&A, although I don't see any
We don't have
Q&A
Q&A.
questions. We don't have
We don't.
Q&A.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll have Patreon section, and then who knows what might happen. That might be pretty much the end of it. So we have on Thursdays we wear pink. That is, we are all wearing pink. Last week we said a Patreon perk was going to be choosing the color of our shirts this week, and pink was the choice. That's what we're all. This is the closest pink I got.
Honestly, are you guys actually wearing pink?
It's like salmon. I don't. The color balance as well is a
This
little
like
off.
orange.
No, this isn't orange. It's
Okay.
definitely not orange.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it's the camera.
Yeah, white balance.
Dude, I got this shirt for like $5 one time because I was
One time.
dressing up as Timmy Turner for Halloween, and this was the shirt.
Okay, so who was Wanda?
Well, nobody was Wanda, but my girlfriend was Trixie.
That's cool.
Ah.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
costumes.
Guild Good Soup for finishing 5 out of 8 Mythic. We broke the Keurig in the final stretch. I assume that's Kurog, yeah. Congratulations. Never Nude, Ja, King of Skills, Dranos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Trekkie, Chewy, US Illidan Realm, Goth Girl Fan Club, looking for M+ players to join Guild.
I
Ziv
thought that guy
XX.
quit.
That's the thing about WoW. People quit. They often come back.
Uh,
Salty Senny, Necris, Sinmora, Tankdill, Nevuk, Eevee, Unholy DKs Rise Up, No Trick, I Forgot I Was Subbed Here, Dymat, Freehold Waiting Room. This is the last podcast before it's a Freehold Playing Room. That's pretty happy.
True.
Oh shit! Wait, this guy's name.
Yeah, wait
Yeah.
for Freehold.
Rework Mistweaver. That's why Tettles' hair is so long. It's full of secrets. Nyx, Get In Loser, We're Going Shopping. Gallic, Brusif, Dratter's Abyss. In the Azure Span quest line, whose funeral do we witness in Iskara? Like and subscribe if Dratter's gets it right. Ha. In Iskara, whose funeral?
Do we have to know the
witness?
name? I know like the character-ish, the role.
I don't know. I don't know this part at all.
Really? Do I know more than you?
Yeah,
on this
you
one?
got me
That's
on this one. By the time I made it to Azure Span, I was fried in my first questing character, and I don't think I've
It's
done
like
that zone
30
in my
minutes
future
in.
ones.
What do you mean?
Well, yeah, but like
It
it's
was
like the third zone, and then on my
You, like,
future
walk
characters,
into
I've done like
the-
Thaldraszus and Waking Shores only.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Well, you walk into the village and they're having the funeral for their elder, or
Okay.
their chieftain,
Cool.
and
Neat.
and Caligos is like, "Did he die in battle?" And they're like, "No, he just had a good long life. Died of old age."
That's cool.
That's the most I'll ever know about the lore.
that owns.
Make sure you dislike and unsubscribe.
Yeah, dislike and unsubscribe. I didn't know it, but I think Trell has kind of saved it there. I think maybe that keeps it going. I don't know. I thought it was good.
Maybe we shouldn't tell
Msanity.
people to dislike and unsubscribe, but here we are.
Msanity, Xena, Rogue is now good enough for Prog, but still bad enough to be sat for SLG. Bless up. Red Color, YouTube.com/Workbringer, Alphabet Soup, Druid Friends of Evolved Gaming, number one Simsky for Trelsky, Lurka's back in the States, but was he ever really gone from our hearts? Milk, Sife, Pone, Windwalker Monks deal with nerfs by rolling with the punches. We'll see how that turns out, yeah. Thesaurus.com is a powerful tool. The Marshare, Svar has forgiven Chordy for his Shadowland shenanigans. With the season winding down, I've been enjoying a lot of PoE lately. Now I have to go back to tanking for my guild, but it's just the price I pay. Destiny is calling me. Also, those shirts are so fetch. Thank you.
Dude, this sounds like Trell.
I know that was like literally describing my life. What the heck?
Yeah. Big Head Small Brain. Narnar TV has cooked up one Season 2 player profile to rule them all. Congratulations. Yeah, Season 2 player profiles will be a good... Relo has one as well on his Twitter if anybody's looking for some good
Dude, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I didn't mention that earlier, but I put all of Relo's tweet in our channel because he put so much good stuff in there in that tweet. Definitely
else
check
was-
that out.
What else was in there?
He
Season 2
made MVP
dungeons,
routes.
Aberrus, routes, player
Oh, he's got
profiles. Yeah.
Yeah, player profile, all the weak auras for raid and Mythic Plus that you can imagine.
That
Uh,
that guy's a hero.
the
Yeah.
season 2 cooldowns on nameplates stuff with custom options, like you can enable, disable them super easily. It's just insane. Reload does so much good work.
Yeah, now if any of those weak auras don't do exactly what they're supposed to do, what you should do is make sure you don't update them, and then in a few months, complain to Relo about them, that functionality not being what you want.
Dude,
He loves
Yes.
it when people do that, so yeah.
he was mauling over somebody being like, bro, why didn't you update this week? Or he goes, I did. What are you talking about?
King's Honor, fellow Horde, it's me, your newest guild member, Juniper. Vvoker is now V Phoenix again because pink class equals damage. Pink class, that's us?
Oh, wait.
That's cool. Husky is a good dog. Rat Run, she doesn't even go here. Chauncey, that moment when your tank says now, where's my ranged at during Jade Serpent boss and bricks your key. Feral Druids in the MDI, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, you don't have that yet? Boom. Sire Dematicus, the small mammal living in Dratnos' shirt, and Sapphire.
Shout out.
Shout out
Shout out.
to all of you and to all the patrons. Again, much appreciated for the support. We are now going to be going for a few weeks break here at the start of the new season. But again, all three of us will have some content of some form, I think, stream content and such happening.
Oh yeah.
Early
yeah.
keys, early raid, Race to World First, and also Race to World First daily recaps on the GG WoW YouTube channel. So lots of stuff in the meantime, and we will be back probably live on May 25th. And the next one will probably come onto your devices on May 26th. That's our best guess. Could be a week in either direction though. But thanks everybody for sticking with us for the 10.0 cycle. And we're excited for the 10.1 cycle as well. We'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good luck. Have fun.